Hey everyone, my name is David Rao, and I'm the music teacher who blogs at makemomentsmatter.org. I'm here to talk with you a little bit about how you can take a piece for, you could use it for any grade. I'm using it for upper elementary. How you can take a piece and expand upon it and do a variety of different things. This is in the style of Orff Schulwerk, or in the vein of Orff Schulwerk, because I am a teacher who's trained in Orff Schulwerk, and I am a teacher trainer of teachers for Orff Schulwerk. So today I'm going to be talking a little bit about one lesson you can use, how you can add to it, expand upon it, give kids a chance for improvisation, transfer things to non-pitch percussion, and just sort of take it in a lot of different ways. That's one of the beautiful things about the Orff Schulwerk approach, is that you can take one lesson and take it in this direction, or this direction, or this direction, or this direction. And there's a chance for literacy, there's a chance for expression, there's a huge chance for student improvisation. And so today I'm going to talk a little bit about how you can take just that one idea, that one kernel, and take it in a variety of different ways. Now, a couple things in the printed notes, the PDF that you have a copy of for this lesson. You are not going to see written notation for the poem that I'm going to talk about. And there's a reason for that, because it's inspired by this book, Music for Children, Volume 1. And in the notes, it'll say Volume 1, page 62, number 2. That's because this is one of the texts that we use all the time in Orff Schulwerk. It was originally written by Orff and one of his contemporaries, Gunhild Kateman, translated by Margaret Murray. But it's just like an essential text that we use all the time. And so you can find it, if you have this book, you can find it in here. It is written just with rhythms for body percussion. I've added a text, and I'm not doing it exactly as it's written. I'm changing it a little bit, again, in the style of Orff Schulwerk. But when you see that and you see, like, where's the notation for this? I can't put it in the notes for you because the company that published it, Schott, will not allow that. So I'm using it as an inspiration, as a source, but you can go and find the exact notation for the body percussion and things in this source if you're interested, or if you have this book. But I think a lot of it will be pretty easy to pick up on, and you won't necessarily need that if you don't want it to recreate this lesson in your own classroom. So with students, I like to do this around the beginning of the new year, and I talk about what a lot of people do around a new year. And we celebrate, we get together, we do things, we party, we have fun together. And a lot of people around this time of year make plans for a new year, but we don't call them plans for the new year. We call them resolutions. And so the first fun thing I get to talk with kids about is, I say, like, what is a resolution a kid might make? Oh my gosh, they have some hilarious things. Eat less candy, don't hit my sister as often, be a better student, like all these like hilarious things. I just taught this lesson this morning, and so some of the reactions I was like, oh, this is interesting. And then I say, what about adults? What kind of resolutions might we make, and what are those, how are they different? So we talk about, a lot of adults make resolutions about, like, money or spending time a certain way. And I said, a lot of adults make a resolution about their health, maybe to eat differently, maybe to be more active, maybe to a specific goal, maybe about, like, going to the gym every day, or going to the gym more often, or something else. And so it's we talk a little bit about what are those resolutions, why do we make them, and then do people follow through on them? And sometimes people do, and sometimes people don't. And it is helpful to have a reminder, like maybe you put a little note on your desk, or maybe you put a little a picture somewhere that reminds you, or maybe you wear a band, like a wristband or something. Or some people like to have a little phrase, a little poem, a little something they can say to get themselves to remember this resolution they've made, to remember this sort of promise they've made to themselves. And so some people write this little poem, or you might say a mantra, to keep them on track. And especially for people who want to go exercise, sometimes it's helpful to have that little mantra to keep you in track and online. So I have a little poem for you today, a little mantra to help you keep your resolution, maybe an exercise resolution. So let me switch over and show you my screen that I show students. It starts out with just this little thing that says, starting each day right with a mantra to get you excited about exercise. Okay, so the it's not really a mantra, it's really a poem. And the poem goes like this. I am going to exercise today. I'll run and I'll jump and I'll sweat. That's the first part. It's so easy. It's so quick. And kids are like, oh yeah, no problem. Except I always have kids note the punctuation in here. They're those little dot dot dot, these ellipses, which means like you have to have a little pause there. And there are some commas as well. So I say it for them again. I say, just check and see, am I pausing all the right spots? I am going to exercise today. I'll run and I'll jump and I'll sweat. And I tell kids, when I originally did this, I thought I need a little breath again. I'll run and I'll jump and I'll sweat. And then I thought maybe I have two little breaths. I'll run and I'll jump and I'll sweat. And I thought that was, a great idea to have a little breath in there. You might need to take a breath if you're exercising. And then one kid said, Mr. Rao, what if we went, I'll run and I'll jump and I'll sweat. Like you're like, oh, like your muscles and you're at the gym. And I was like, we're going to have to do it like that from now on. So with kids, I say like, you can either do, or you can do, ooh, at the end. I am going to exercise today. I'll run and I'll jump and I'll sweat. Ooh. And then we got to say it again. I am going to exercise today. I'll run and I'll jump and I'll sweat. Ooh. And at this point, I always say to kids, okay, how are you saying that? Are you saying, I am going to I don't believe you. I am going to exercise today. I don't believe you. And this is a big part of Orff Schulwerk, is getting students to feel, to dramatize, to add a little bit of energy into it. Not just saying, it's how you say the poem affects how the music happens. And so it's a little bit of a talk about expression, just in talking about the character of the piece. So we try it again. Let's do that first part, that red part. Let's do that twice in a row with our ooh in there. And let's say it like we mean it. I am going to exercise today. I'll run and I'll jump and I'll sweat. Ooh. I am going to exercise today. I'll run and I'll jump and I'll sweat. Ooh. Okay, but obviously that's not the end of the poem, because there's like, what's our goal? And like, there's that big empty spot. So the next part goes like this. I am going to run a mile. I am going to run a mile. Almost ready. Yeah. Okay, this is a little bit trickier. Listen to it again. I am going to run a mile. I am going to run a mile. Almost ready. Yeah. Okay, we can try it again. This time, even as you're listening, think about, are all the words, do I speak them all exactly the same, or do I not speak them exactly the same? Try it again, either listening or trying it with me. I am going to run a mile. I am going to run a mile. Almost ready. Yeah. And so with some of those words, we have to emphasize them a little bit more or a little bit less, depending on how we say it. And kids at this point, they have no problem copying usually. At this point, let's put it together. So the first part and the second part, except the red part, you could call that A. And this is when I pull out in my classroom like little form letters that I put out on the board, or you could just write it with a Sharpie Expo marker on your whiteboard. You could write A for the first part, or B for the second part. But I always have like a red marker, and I put A for the first part, and then blue B. So I usually say like, let's do A, B. So let's put that together, 2 reds and a blue. I am going to exercise today. I'll run and I'll jump and I'll sweat. Ooh. I am going to exercise today. I'll run and I'll jump and I'll sweat. Ooh. I am going to run a mile. I am going to run a mile. Almost ready. Yeah. Okay, it's weird to end like that. We're going to have to go back into the beginning, aren't we? We're going to have to do an A, B, A, because it's weird to do A, B, and then almost ready, yeah, and then stop right there. We can't do that. So I think our final form, we're going to have to do A, B, A. Otherwise, it's weird. It's weird. Okay, now, but before we even get to that, well, with kids, I would put it together. We'd try it. But for us, let's zoom ahead. Okay, this is a poem about exercise, and we're just sitting. or standing or whatever we're doing in the classroom at that point. So we got to add a little exercise. Now the first part, the kids are like, exercise. I'm like, it's easy. Okay, now to keep myself in the frame, I'm going to stay seated, but in my classroom I stand. So the first part is just a little step. So it goes step, 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 step. So the words are projected up on the board, and I'm stepping and saying it as I do it. I go, I am going to exercise today. I'll run and I'll jump and I'll sweat. Ooh, ooh. And it's just a steady beat. It's just walking back and forth. In the original body percussion, it's a stamp, but it's just, we're stepping back and forth. No problem. Okay, I'm going to add a little something. See if you can figure out what I add. It's a snap, right? Is it after every stomp? Nope. Let me add the poem. I am going to exercise today. I'll run and I'll jump and I'll sweat. Ooh, ooh. I am going to exercise today. I'll run and I'll jump and I'll sweat. Ooh, ooh. And then on the B part, on the I'm going to run a mile, something different. So we'll get to that in a second. Okay, this is great. If you can do that, whew, wonderful. Keeping the steady beat, walking, moving, I love it. But let's add more. Step, snap, step, pat, step, snap, step. I am going to exercise today. I'll run and I'll jump and I'll sweat. Ooh, ooh. Okay, so even if you're just thinking the processing right now, I am clearly not doing this for younger grades, right? Because, well, number one, I'm snapping. So can kindergarten and first grade do that? Maybe, just that thing. But we're stepping back and forth, so we're crossing the midline. I'm snapping and I'm patting and I'm trying to say a poem in time with expression. That is not something you're going to do in younger grades, right? Maybe bits and pieces of that, but not in a continuous way, not this quickly. So for sure we're at an older grade, but let's do more because there's more. There's another option here. On the way from the snap to the pat, I'm going to sneak in a little clap. Snap, clap, pat. Snap, clap, pat. Stomp, snap, stomp, clap, pat. Stomp, snap, stomp, clap, pat. And with the poem, it's going to sound like this. I am going to exercise today. I'll run and I'll jump and I'll sweat. Ooh, ooh. I am going to exercise today. I'll run and I'll jump and I'll sweat. Ooh, ooh. Okay, that's the A section. That's great. That's the first part. What are we going to do on the B section? The B section's different. It's very different. The words are different. The poem's different. So why don't we just, instead of trying to do the pat and clap and the step, let's just clap all the syllables. Here, let me even switch my screen over so you can see it again. Let's just clap the syllables for the blue part. I am going to run a mile. I am going to run a mile. Almost ready, almost ready, almost ready. Yeah. And then this is where I get to sort of sneak in some music notation stuff because I say, am I saying all those words exactly the same? I am going to run a mile. I am going to run. Or are some things emphasized more than others? I am going to run a mile. I am going to run a mile. Almost ready, almost ready, almost ready. Yeah. Okay, and so I can't on my computer screen get out a like an expo marker and put in accents, but in my classroom, I project this picture up onto the screen or onto my whiteboard, and I just take an expo marker and I make a little accent over certain places, and kids get to help identify where those are. So in that B section, it's the I am going to run a mile. I am going to run a mile. And kids almost inevitably say almost, and I go, oh, so it's almost ready, almost ready, almost ready, yeah. And they're like, oh wait, not all of almost, just the AL, just almost. So we figure out that the accents are on the I, all, and yeah. Let me say that and put those in so you can sort of see where that is. I am going to run a mile. I am going to run a mile. Almost ready, almost ready, almost ready, yeah. So we put that in, and then if the kids can handle it, we also, through that B section, we add a crescendo from the beginning to the end. So the A section, the red part, is moving and doing body percussion and trying to to handle all of that. The B section is just switching to clapping, but with accents and with a crescendo through the duration of the piece. And the final form is A, A, B, A. I'm going to do it for you once. Kids need a couple times to do this. They can't do it all. And I'm going to switch so that you can see the notation, so you can see the words and not just see me doing it. But you can imagine that my face is very expressive as I'm doing this. But I'm going to switch over so you can watch and you can sort of see the words as I say it. Okay, so I'm actually, even before this, I'm going to put a little introduction, just a 2-measure introduction. And I write that up on the board. With kids, I put a, written up like A, B, A. And I'll put a little intro there on the front too. See, I said I was going to put an intro and I started right on the text. Okay, come on, Mr. Rao. Let's get this figured out. Here we go. I am going to exercise today. I'll run and I'll jump and I'll sweat. Ooh, ooh. I am going to exercise today. I'll run and I'll jump and I'll sweat. Ooh, ooh. I am going to run a mile. I am going to run a mile. Almost ready, almost ready, almost ready. Yeah! I am going to exercise today. I'll run and I'll jump and I'll sweat. Ooh, ooh. Now we did say A, B, A. And if you feel like that is incomplete and you want to do A, B, A, you know what? You do you. You go right for it. But my class, we usually do A, B, A and call it a day for that form. But you could do A, B, A if you choose. Now, there are options here. One of the things that we sometimes do is I'll split the group up. And I'll say, okay, this half of the room, you just do that ostinato, that repeating pattern of the body percussion. And the other half will do the poem. Yeah? And you could even add a job. So if there's that one side of the room doing this, they just keep that going, that ostinato, that short repeating pattern. And the other side, it can go, I am going to exercise today. I'll run and I'll jump and I'll sweat. They could even, clap it. I am going to exercise today, or I am going to exercise today. You could have them clap that, right? If you want to keep those jobs going, you could have one side of the room doing the ostinato and the other side could grab a clave or rhythm sticks or something that's not going to completely cover things up. I would not put that poem like on a tubano because then you would not hear anything else. But like, rhythm sticks or claves or wood blocks or something where they're going, I am going to exercise today. I'll run and I'll jump and I'll sweat. And if you want the ostinato side of the room, they could also put that on instruments. So you can have somebody, maybe tubanos, doing the steps. Boom, boom, boom. Maybe you hand off the 2 finger cymbals. So it'd be like tubano, cymbals, bum, bum, tubano, cymbal, bum, 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 boom. You could hand off that ostinato pattern. Once they've figured it out, you'd be like, you are the snaps, get to do it on finger cymbals. Ooh, if you're going to do I'd probably give that to one person, and you could give that to like a hand drum. So it could be tubano cymbals, tubano boom boom, tubano ding, boom boom, ding, boom boom. You could give that ostinato pattern to non-pitch instruments so they could transfer that over and try it in a different way. Or they could just keep doing it with body percussion. It's kind of up to what you want to do with the lesson. If you want them to focus on instrument playing and speaking, if you want them to focus on 2 different parts and ensemble, it's up to you. But you could transfer the body percussion part to non-pitch instruments, and you could transfer the poem to non-pitch instruments. We for sure transfer the poem to non-pitch instruments for the B section, for the blue part. I am going to run a mile. So you can talk about that accent and what that looks like on an instrument. So that's one thing that we like to do with that. And then you can switch jobs, and you can have both sides do both parts. It's really fun to be able to do that. Or to say, do the whole thing with body percussion with non-pitch instruments, but no speaking the words out loud. Think them in your head, please, but don't speak them out loud. So instead of going, I am going, you're going. You could, so that they're more independent and they're, instead of saying it out loud, they're thinking it. But in Orff Schulwerk, we always encourage kids to keep thinking the words, to use the words, because the words help anchor the rhythms. They help anchor and keep groups together. And so we never say like, no more words ever, just put it out of your head. No, the words help us, and the words help them stay together as an ensemble, but also just keep that internal pulse going, that internal understanding of the rhythm going. So we always encourage kids to keep thinking the words. So the next thing I have students do, we try it, we do non-pitch instruments, we play around, but now I want them to start thinking about, if you're going to exercise, what are some words and things that are related to that? And I have a job for them, actually. And the job is to come up with some exercise-related things that match these, we call them the rhythmic building bricks. So in the red brick, there's ta, ta. The blue is, okay, now use your own rhythm syllable system here, whatever you're most comfortable with. I say takadimi, so the blue brick I would say ta-di, ta-di. Maybe you say ti-ti, ti-ti. Maybe you say do-day, do-day, but you hopefully know that I'm talking about those eighth notes there. So the blue brick would be ta-di, ta-di. The green would be ta, rest. The yellow and the purple are the trickiest, because that's when you have three sounds. How do you break them up? Do you break it up as 1 plus 2, like in the yellow brick, or you break it up as 2 plus 1, like in the purple brick? So students have to sort of figure that out. Now, let me give you an example. Let me talk about food. If I said the word apple, apple falls on which brick? Apple. It's the red one. It only has 2 syllables. Apple. What about if I said the word, let's see, I'm talking about food. Okay, what if I say cheese? Cheese. A lot of times in my school, kids will clap to figure out the syllabification. So cheese, or apple, or watermelon. They're used to doing that in their class for ELA. So I encourage them to continue doing it in my class. Cheese would be the green brick. Watermelon, that's another easy one. The blue brick, because it's 4 sounds. When you get to the 3 sound words, that's when things get tricky. You have to figure out, does it syllabify as 1 sound plus 2 or 2 sounds plus 1? So like a compound word like apple pie, that's really easy. Apple is 2 sounds, pie is 1, right? What if I say like blueberry? You're not going to say blueberry, 2 plus 1. You're going to say blueberry, because it's a compound word. But if you have some other words that aren't maybe so simple, you have to decide, is it 1 sound plus 2 or 2 sounds plus 1? Or does it not fit any of these? Does it have a pickup? Banana does not fit. It's not banana. Because if you're thinking that word with a pulse, it's not banana. There's an anacrusis in that word. It goes banana. Banana, right? Belinda, like there are words that just croissant, croissant, croissant. It's not croissant, croissant. So there's some words that don't fit in very well with these rhythmic building bricks. And there's a specific reason that I'm talking about these just 5 pairs. That reason is, again, I come from the world of Orff Schulwerk, and one of the books that we use a lot is this book called Elementaria. It's really, really good. It's not very expensive for everything that's included in it, but it is just chock full of really great ideas. And one of the things it talks about is these rhythmic building bricks, and how you can take them and use them in a variety of different patterns and ways to make just endless rhythmic exercises and opportunities for improvisation. So with kids, we talk a lot about these rhythmic building bricks, or rhythmic building blocks, some people will say. But just know that there are going to be some words that will not fit so neatly in there, and you go, oh wow, that's a really cool word. It doesn't quite fit, but you're right, it does have 3 syllables. But it's kind of where you can either talk about the anacrusis or not if you want, but just know as a teacher that there are going to be some words that will not work so well. Okay, now I talked about food words, and with kids, I'll give them those examples like apple and apple pie and watermelon. I'll say with food stuff, and I'll say, but we're not talking about food. We're talking about exercising. And so what I need you to do in your small group, or group of 2, or make a group of 3, or whatever, you need to come up with words that are exercise or exercise related that we can fit in for each of those 5 categories. Now with kids, I give them some leeway. Like if I'm talking about food, I could talk about the food apple, or what if I'm going to cook or bake or do something? I might have to pull something from the fridge. I might have to put it on the stove. I might need to use like a saute pan. Those are all things that are related to food, but are not necessarily food words. So for exercising, you could use an exercise word, you could use a team sport, you could use equipment you might find at the gym. What do you wear if you're going to be exercising? So all those are all things that are sort of free game for kids to talk about. And then we have to come up with some answers. So let me see if my iPad screen will work. So with my kids, I just show this up on, I AirPlay my iPad screen up on the board. You could, again, just use the old-fashioned Expo marker if you want. It's totally up to you. But this is an application called Sketches, and I think it's even called Sketches School, or maybe that's what it used to be called. I'm not sure, but I can look that up if you're interested. But it's just a way that I can use as sort of a digital whiteboard. There are a bunch of apps and things that'll do that. So I've already put this image up there with the 5 different categories, and kids have to come up in their small group with at least one for each category. So we come up with all sorts of great things. Let me see if I can fill out a few of these on my own. So let's see. I could do like football. I could do soccer. Some people say those are the same thing. Depends on what part of the world you're from. Okay, let's see. What if we did like, ooh, this is a thing that comes up with my kids. Running. Okay, my rule is if you use it here, you can't use it here. So if you ing it, running, you can't here put run. That verb can only go in one place. It's either run or running. You get to decide, but you only get to put it in one place. So if I put running there, I can't put run in my one category. So kids are feeding me words, things that they might come up with. Let's see, what's another thing it could be? Tennis. If they said like weightlifting, I go, oh, wait, that's not this category. Let's get to that in a minute. I try and fill up about 5 or 6 things. This is an easy one for them to come up with. Let's see, what else could they put in the one sound category? We could come up with like ball, court, team, right? Let's do toddy. Some that are popular are protein powder. Let's see. What are some of the other ones that they usually come up with? I should have written down the ones that I did today. This is funny because you can see what they can come up with and what they come up. Protein shows up a lot. Let's move on to the category down here because, of course, in this moment I'm blanking. Let's see. Oh, I know. So the other one, popular one I was thinking of was water bottle. And maybe you're sitting there looking at the screen screaming at me like, David, why can't you think of whatever? Well, remember that for when you teach this lesson. Okay, down here's where things get tricky. So they have to come up with some things that would either fit in one or the other. We have to try and get one of each. So let's see. The right side is actually easier. Basketball. Now imagine you could do all of those games. Volleyball, anything that ends with a ball on the end, except football doesn't work, but there are a lot of things that would fit right in there. Over here is where you get things like weightlifting. Let's see, rock climbing. So here, let me give you an example of a word that would maybe not work well for kids. They don't always come up with this, but sometimes they come up with elliptical. And elliptical, you would think would go here, 4 sounds, but it's not elliptical because this category presupposes that you are putting an emphasis on the beginning of each pairing, right? Elliptical. But it's not that, it's elliptical. So really, where would that word go? It would go elliptical. Right? So it would have an anacrusis in it. It has a pickup into that word elliptical. It's not elliptical. It's not even. They're not even. So sometimes when you have kids say like, oh, wow, what a great word, but it just doesn't really work. So you can talk them through that. I always have them come up with those words because I think it's important for them to think about words and what can they come up with. And they're brainstorming on their own. They love coming up with some of their own ideas. But then a lot of times I'll say, those are all great ideas. I have some that I think are really cool too. Here are a couple examples. Jogging, exercising, stretch, weightlifting, jumping jacks. Now, I'm going to put them together and you get to be my echo. I'm just going to do 2 of those little blocks together. I'll say it, you repeat after me. Exercising, jogging. Exercising, jogging. And the kids get to repeat after me. How about this? Jumping jack stretch. Jumping jack stretch. Okay, now I'm going to make it harder. Instead of just saying 2, I'm going to fill up, instead of just 2 boxes, I'm going to do 4 boxes. But I might be a little tricky. See if you can figure out how I'm doing this. Exercising, jogging, exercising, jogging. Okay, and they're going to repeat that. It was 4 bricks, but I used well, it's really 2 bricks. I just used them twice. So, but I filled up the space of 4. I just used 2 bricks twice. Let me do another one. Weight lifting, jumping jacks, weight lifting, jogging. Okay, so again, I filled up the spot of 4. I only used 3 though. I used weightlifting twice. Weight lifting, jumping jacks, weight lifting, jogging. Okay, let's see. Let me do one more. Exercising, 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 stretch. Dun, 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 dun. Now what's happening here is with kids, I say like, I really have like 4 spots, right? But I'm taking them and filling them up in different ways. Now I might decide instead of doing, because it's easy to remember if we have a little bit of repeat. So maybe I make my first choice and then I make a second choice, but instead of going like 1, 2, 3, 4, I might do 1, 2, 1, 2, and just remember that again. Or maybe it'd be easy to remember 1, 2, 2, 1. Hold on, you know what? Instead of saying 1s and 2s, what if I thought about it like letters, A's and B's? Because I like using that to help remember like the order of stuff. So instead of saying like 1, 2, 2, 1, I could write like, let's see, A, B, B, A. That's actually pretty easy to remember. Then I only have to remember 2 of the bricks and just remember what order they're in. So there are all sorts of variations I could do of this, right? Like A, B, B, A, ABBA, dancing queen. I could do A, B, A, B. I could do A, B. I could do A, B, B. Well, and what if I wanted a third choice? A third choice I would call C. Okay, well then I could do like A, B, A, C. I could do A, B, C, A. I could do A, B, B, C. Not nearly as common. I probably wouldn't even recommend that to kids, but like, you know, you could. It's when kids say, well, can you do like C, A, B, A? I'm like, well, C just means your third choice, like whatever that is. It doesn't literally mean like, okay, I'm going to assign of these 5 things. This one's number 1. This one's an A and this is a B. It's just like a placeholder, right? So it just means I'm repeating. So with kids, I say, I'm going to give you 4 bricks worth of stuff, but I'm not going to use 4. I'm not going to do an A, B, C, D. That'd be weird. And if I used one thing 4 times, if I did A, that would also be weird. So I'm not going to do that. So let me think. What if I did, let me show you an A, B, A, C. Okay, so let me see. Exercising, jogging, exercising, stretch. So my A was exercising, B was jogging, I did A again, and then C was stretch. Okay, and then I have the, you know, the kids maybe with their partner come up with their own ABAB or ABBA, or maybe I'll give them something and I have them come up with their own version. Okay, I'm going to make it harder. Okay, let's see. I'm not going to tell you what the word is. I'm just going to use body percussion. Okay, you ready? Here's the first one. Which brick was that? Hopefully you're saying jogging. Let me do another one. Hopefully you're saying exercise. Where for you, I know you're probably getting this a lot quicker. Again, the really tricky one is when you do the groups of 3. So it's, they hear that really easy, but when you do, they get confused. Weightlifting and jumping jacks. That's just something to keep in mind when you're going to do this. Now, with kids, I'll say, I'm going to do 4 in a row, and it is your job to figure out which 4 I'm doing. I'm going to use a pattern like ABAC or ABBA or something like that, but it's your job to figure out what it is. Teacher tip, if you're going to do this, those 4 spots, don't do them all with one version of body percussion, one level of body percussion. So instead of doing like, that's hard for them to hear and hard for them to see. But what if you did this? Then they know that there's a level or a level change to indicate a new thing. Exercising, jogging, exercising, stretch. Then they'll be able to see it and orally distinguish a little bit easier. Usually what I do is I give them like 4 or 5 examples where I use the body percussion and they have to come up with the answer. And then in their small group, I let them come up with something that they can share with the class and test with the class. It's always hilarious, always fun to see what they can come up with. So let's go back and talk about what happened. So in this lesson, we talked about resolutions. We talked about things you might choose, why you might choose that. We talked about mantra. We pulled out this body percussion piece with text. I am going to exercise today. We slowly worked into the form AABA with a large form for that. We talked about transferring to body percussion of doing that asana, and then also having the text over on top of that. The B section is a little bit different where you take out the asana and you just clap it, right? Maybe one day is just processing through that, adding the poem, and then doing that much. And doing separate parts there. Maybe we transfer to unpitched instruments where we pull out non-pitched instruments and we take the non-pitched instruments and transfer the asana to that. Maybe that's one day. Then you can have them brainstorm exercise word ideas. You can have them come up with patterns. You can have them hear patterns. I hope you see in this one lesson with this one simple little poem, so many things you can do. And if you are trying to focus on notation, you want to talk about accents, you want to talk about crescendo, you can do that. If you wanted them to notate the poem, you could do that. If you wanted them to play it on different instruments, you could do that. If you wanted them to take it to like pitched percussion instruments and take like one of those patterns and go to exercise today and put it on an instrument, you could have them improvise bum, 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 bum. You could have them do that if you wanted. There are a lot of options for what else could we do? What else could we do? What else could we do? And I hope that you could see that this is where we start very, very simple with one idea and sort of build off of it and build off it and build off it. I ended with, I'm having the kids quiz other kids with like, we're putting together those 4 bricks together and we're coming up with things, but you don't have to end there. You could end anywhere else in the process or take it however else you want. That's one of the things I love about Orff Schulwerk is here's this idea, here's one thing you could do with it. You could take this and really expand upon this thing, or maybe you want to focus on this thing, take that thing and run with that. It gives you possibilities. So I hope this gave you an idea of one of the things you can do with older grades and how you can take it and expand upon it. And go back and check out the notes and see like, did I follow the process I wrote there? And did I change things? Did I alter things? Probably it depends on what your students want, where they lead you. And that's one of the really exciting things about it. But I have my plan of like, I know where I want to get to. We might take a little deviation and follow one of their ideas for a minute, but I know sort of where we're going, and so I sort of lead them through that. But I love the open up possibilities of what else could we do with that? And sometimes kids will really surprise you with their ideas. So I hope you make your own New Year's resolution to try out this lesson and to explore a little bit more with Orff Schulwerk. I hope this gave you some fun ideas to take into the new year.